Yo, before I start, I do want to mention that, yes, I know I said that you should never multi-class Thief and Warrior, or just Thief in general, but this weapon came out after I said that, so things have changed, right? And I want to also preface before I start the showcase that this build is entirely for PvP. You should not be doing PvE on this build. If you want a PvE build, just go 40 Ninja, go Warlock. This is for PvP, okay? And I also do want to mention that you need to min-max this build because it's a PvP build, okay? You want to min-max all your damage that you could possibly get, so you could obviously optimize how much damage you're doing in PvP, right? PvE doesn't really matter if you min-max or not, but it does in PvP. Now, to start, here are the stats. I want to also say that this build is very good, okay? Some of you might be turned off by the fact that, oh yeah, you missed Deathmark, but your damage on this build is still very, very good, especially if you fully min-max it, which I'll get into later. Now, to start, this is the build. 10 Warrior, again, it's actually insane how many questions I still get. Should I start Warrior? Like, do I get Warrior at the end if I want to get the armor? You need to start Warrior to multi-class with Warrior to get the armor, okay? You need to start Warrior, okay? If you don't start Warrior, you don't get this passive right here, which lets you wear Turtle Shell, which lets you wear all the strength armor, okay? And then you go 30 into Thief, alright? For Ninja. Ninja is the best PvP subclass that Thief gets. It's really strong PvP, Skyrend. You already know, like, this combo is very strong, these two moves, alright? And the dashes are strong in PvP too. Alright, so the stats are done. Next, I want to talk about weapon. Now, this is kind of what inspired me to make this build, is the fact that you can use Viridian, which is the best melee weapon in the game, on Assassin, which sound very appealing to me, and it is very appealing, it's very good, being able to use Viridian. This crit is very strong, and the biggest thing with this is the passive, okay? This passive is very, very strong in PvP, and not only this though, but as you can see, I only have one on right now, and it's because I don't have a dual book. I have another one in my inventory, I just can't use it, because I don't have a dual book popped on this slot. This build is so much stronger if you use 2 Viridians instead of a Warrior Sash, okay? This is so much stronger. I'm going to be playing clips at the end of the video, and you guys are going to see me PvPing. This is before I had any slots on my Turtle Shell. This is before I had these 2 pairs of armor. And this is also before I had any slots on my Viridian. And it's also with only 1 Viridian, okay? You need 2 Viridians on this build for it to be really good, and for you to shred people's HP, okay? Because this damage debuff, or defense debuff that you apply on Viridian passive is broken in PvP, okay? Especially if you use 2. Crit's also strong too. So that's why I made the build, with the idea of dual wielding 2 Viridians. But that aside, these are the runes that you should put on your Viridian, on both your Viridians, in terms of like great runes to min-max. Now I want to talk about kind of armor. So again, because you're multiclassing Warrior, you kind of want to just use a Warrior armor set. So this should be a Bastion plate, or whatever the plate is for the Demon Sect is, instead of a Turtle Shell, because you want to maximize the amount of strength you have. But I have a 6-slot Turtle Shell, so I'm obviously just going to be using this. In terms of runes, I'm going to put on screen what you should be putting in your 6 slots. Helmet, this is the best helmet you can use from the faction shop, and I'm going to put on screen. There's not really that much variety in terms of great runes on helmets, but I'll put on screen what you should put on. And then in terms of boots, this is also the best boot you can use. And then I'm also put the runes that you should put on your boots on screen. Now, for your cape, you should use the strength cape. I just have my strength cape on another slot that I'm progging. So I have the agility cape on. The agility cape is still fine. Gives speed boost, but again, you just 25 strength is just a lot better on this build for free. And I also want to say that this build isn't as much of as a thief as you think it is. This build is more of a warrior with thief moves, if that makes sense. You still build strength runes on all your equipment, and you still kind of play like a warrior. You're kind of hyper aggressive. You can still play passive at times, you know. And obviously you have your resistance with the warrior armor, right? So play this build a little bit more like a warrior than a ninja, or than a thief. You don't need to do crazy burst damage. You can kind of play the fight kind of passively if you want. You can play it very different ways, right? But again, yeah, think of this build more like a warrior instead of ninja, except it's just warrior with ninja moves, alright? Now in terms of rings really don't matter, in my opinion at least. Make sure you're using one of the new rings, the new strength ring they added to the faction shop. Focus ring is really nice in my opinion. I think this is a must on this build, especially if you're trying to play hyper aggressive. You want to use focus ring to maintain your focus, because your kit costs a lot, and you will notice like heavy drain really fast. Philosopher's Ring in PvP is really good in my opinion in terms of ganks. It's low-key needed. Piercing Band you don't have to run. You can run something else if you want. Maybe like a Vampiric. I think Vampiric's actually pretty good with this weapon. So if you want to opt into using Vampiric instead of like Primordial or Piercing, that's good. I don't know if I'm talking really fast. I'm just trying to like say as much information as I can as quickly as possible. You want to use apples. You could eat apples in PvP. So if you're like really low and you have no hunger, then you could just eat an apple in the fight, and then you will be able to still abuse the fact that you get a really good damage buff with Primordial Ring. In my opinion, I think Primordial Ring is like a must on this build. Not a must, but it's really good because of the fact that you can maintain like really low hunger, so you just get a flat, really good damage boost, right? But yeah, that's in terms of it for armor. That's pretty much it for armor. And next, I just want to talk about races. Now, I'm an Allurian on this build, and Allurian actually is not bad in PvP. You see this move, the passive it gets is actually a really good evasive. You get out of a lot of things, especially in PvP. Like off the top of my head, I could think of so many mage moves that multi-hit, that stun lock you, that you can get out of for free. In terms of warrior, like Whirlwind, you can get out of like a counter. You can get out of a Windbind. You can get out of like a piercing thrust. You can get out of a sky rend. Like it's very, very strong. You can pretty much get out of literally anything. It's just an evasive. So because of that fact alone, I think Allurian is actually like a top 3 PvP race, and yeah, it's really good. Not only that though, but obviously you get a really, really good speed buff. Like you see, I have a 10% speed buff. This is obviously contributed by the fact that I have this on, but Allurian itself does give a really good speed buff. I'm pretty sure it's 8%. So if you have an Allurian, don't be discouraged because people say it's bad. It's still very good in PvP. And they're probably going to buff it too, considering it's considered one of the worst races, but I honestly don't think it's bad at all. But if you do want to run the optimal race on this build, you should be running Slime or Elf, okay? Slime is just like Giga broken in PvP. The sustain you get on Slime is disgusting, on Black Slime. And there's so many moves on this kit that sets you up for a free Slime. Viscous Shock. Assault sets you up. Skywrench sets you up. Piercing Thrust can set you up. And even just like M1 canceling into Viscous Shock is also very good. So definitely run Slime if you have a Slime on this build, a Black Slime. And Elf is just good because of the cooldown reduction. Like Elf kind of just works on every single build in the game. It doesn't really matter. So yeah, one of those two races. But don't be discouraged if you have an Allurian. You can also go Allurian. Dualhan too, but I personally don't think Dualhan is that good. The move is kind of it's very readable and it's kind of telegraphed, and it doesn't do crazy damage in my opinion. That's it for races though. Now let's talk about kit. The kit's pretty self-explanatory. You get 10 warriors, so you're able to use a Moral Strike and Assault. Assault is really good to get close space. So you can see that I'm not running any of these moves, and Dagger Mastery doesn't apply because I'm using a sword. Backstab is bad in PvP, bad in PvP. Don't need. Doesn't apply because you don't have any Harp Armor moves. And you can run Trained. This is the only thing that you could kind of swap out. You can swap Trained for Focus Training 1, but I personally would rather Focus Training 1 to maintain really high focus, okay? But you can swap for Trained for Focus Training 1. And you can even swap Trained for Backstabber, but there are times when Backstabber actually is useful, especially if you end up getting Windbind. I do want to mention this, that you should be using Windbind if you can roll it. Very, very good in PvP, and it sets you up again for a free Backstabber if you have it, and you can get, for example, like a Skyren for free. But yeah, that's pretty much the build. For the rest of the video, I'm going to be putting clips from my stream. I streamed yesterday with this build. Again, these clips but yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoy. Let me know if you guys make this build. I think I answered every single question, and yeah, enjoy.